Hi, my name is Vanessa and I'll be your guide to this video essay, The Modern Renaissance of Trick-Taking Games, made with the assistance of NotebookLM. In the landscape of modern board gaming, trends usually favor complexity, miniatures, rolling boards, and heavy strategy. However, a significant phenomenon is currently occurring in the opposite direction, a resurgence of card games. This essay or video essay explores the trick-taking renaissance. Based on an analysis of current sources, we can see that this is not merely a wave of nostalgia. Instead, it is a reinvention of the genre driven by critical analysis, Eastern innovation, and a community dedicated to evolving the mechanics of the past into the science of the future. To understand this renaissance, we must define all of the mechanics at play. Contemporary sources, including Spanish outlets like El Club Nante, are making a concerted effort to differentiate these distinct genres. First, trick-taking, defined by a leading suit where the highest rank wins. Second, climbing, where the objective is to beat the previous player's play, or hand, to stay in the round. And third, shedding, focused solely on emptying one's hand. Historically, these genres were represented by Western classics like bridge or spades, or even German staples like Mu or David and Goliath. However, the current conversation has shifted away from these traditional roots towards a new wave of imports, specifically Japanese imports. The driving force behind this modern evolution is largely geographical, as said before, rising specifically from the East. This literature identifies two key figures who represent this shift. The first is Taiki Shinasawa. Sources consistently cite him as a premier innovator and avant-garde figure of the movement. His work is fundamental to this analysis because he actively deconstructs traditional rules. His designs are experimental, breaking the standard structures of card play that have existed for centuries. Maybe not centuries, but several years. The second figure is Hiroaki Yakamoto, also known as Hiroken. His design, a very popular game called Eternal Decks, is highlighted not just as a game, but as a robust puzzle system. Yakamoto represents the trend of hybridization, fusing modern mechanics like deck building with traditional trick-taking. The complexity is what separates the new wave from the classics. This influx of design has created a specific cultural phenomenon. It is described by critics as a move beyond nostalgia. The community is engaging in a dialogue about the past, present, and future of these mechanics. We can see this in the media landscape. Articles such as the Fellowship of Trick-Taking Games and analytics from the Opinionated Gamers treat these games with academic seriousness. In the Spanish-speaking world, groups like Fractal Juegos have begun standardizing the language for a new generation of players. These games are no longer simple fillers, but are now even competing for Game or Games of the Year. The longevity of this trend seems assured. Looking towards the 2026 release calendar, anticipated titles like Tax the Rich, originally announced in Gen Con 2025, demonstrate that the fever for these games is ongoing. The continued buzz around these releases prove that the genre has successfully transitioned from a traditional pastime to a central pillar of the modern hobby. In conclusion, the modern card game movement is a case study in how traditional mechanics can be revitalized through global exchange. By importing experimental ideas from authors like Shinzawa and Yakamoto, the gaming community has proven that even the oldest mechanics can be made new again. The deck has not just been shuffled. The game has fundamentally been rewritten. Using NotebookLM for this assignment was very useful. It helped me read almost 30 sources in the span of 5 seconds, and not only that, but to also understand them very clearly. I also like that you're able to create different types of media based on the information you analyze. It's like a notebook that helps you write along the way. The only downside I found was that it tends to repeat a lot of the same information. So I had to ask several times for it to get it right. Like, no matter which prompt I use, it just kept giving me like the same 4 answers in just like a different order. Then I think I kind of got the hang of it, but it took a while. And yeah, I'll be using NotebookLM for future projects and study sessions. Thank you.
You know, there's this entire genre of card games that's been around for, well, ages, but it's making this incredible modern comeback. So today, we're going to dive into the art of the trick-taking game.
Just think for a second. Have you ever sat around a table with some friends, maybe with family, and played a game of spades? Or maybe hearts?
If the answer is yes,
and I bet for a lot of you it is, then I've got some great news. You already get the single most important skill we're talking about today. You already know how to take a trick. So let's make it official. We're getting into the art of the trick, and trust me, by the end of this, you're going to understand the simple, elegant basics behind this whole fantastic category of card games.
All right, first things first. How do you actually win a trick? I promise, the rules for each little round are so simple, but they open the door for some really amazing strategy.
The core idea here is just incredibly clean. A trick is just one small round of play. Everyone at the table plays a single card from their hand, and whoever plays the winning card gets to take all of them. That little stack of cards, that's the trick.
Simple, right? Okay, let's break that down into 4 super clear steps that you'll see in pretty much every one of these games. First, someone leads the trick by playing a card. Any card. Second, and this is the golden rule, everyone else has to follow suit. That just means if a blue card was played, you have to play a blue card if you've got one. Third, the highest number of the color that was led wins the trick. And finally, step 4, the winner just scoops up all the cards. That's it. That's the engine. And that simple little loop is where all the brilliant strategy comes from. You know, managing your hand, trying to figure out what other people have, and deciding when to play your best cards.
All right, so you've got the basics. For centuries, that's pretty much how it worked. You win tricks to score points, you outsmart your opponents. But then a game came along that completely flipped the script. Let's talk about The Crew and how this modern classic totally changed the rules.
Now this is where it gets really fascinating. See, the heart of classic trick-taking is all about personal gain. You want to win tricks for yourself. But The Crew asks this revolutionary question. What if winning tricks for yourself wasn't the point at all?
And you can really see that fundamental shift right here. On one side, you've got your classic games. It's every player for themselves trying to get the most points. But on the other side, you've got The Crew, where everybody is on the same team. The goal isn't individual glory, it's completing a shared mission. It completely transforms the game from a duel against your friends into a puzzle you have to solve with.
So, how does that even work? How do you play cooperatively? Well, that brings us to the silent mission, which is this unique and, frankly, wonderfully difficult challenge that's at the very heart of The Crew. So as a team, you're trying to complete these missions, and a mission is actually pretty simple. A specific player has to win the trick that has a specific card in it. So maybe my mission is to win the trick that has the green 7. My teammates can't just win tricks whenever they want. They have to figure out a way to help me win that exact trick.
Sounds pretty tricky, right?
Well, here's the rule that makes this game an absolute masterpiece. The biggest challenge is this. You cannot speak about the cards in your hand. No hints, no winks, no saying, hey, don't worry, I've got the highest blue card. Nothing. Just silence. And what that does is it forces you and your team into this entirely new way of thinking. The cards you decide to play, and just as importantly, when you play them, that becomes your only language. You have to literally learn to communicate without words, signaling your strengths and weaknesses using only your gameplay. And that really brings us to the bigger picture. This isn't just some clever new rule. It represents a whole new way to win. It's about completely redefining what victory even means in this kind of game. By turning competition into cooperation, The Crew completely revitalized the trick-taking genre, bringing in a ton of new players. And what's really amazing is that even with all this complex silent communication going on, the basic rules are so intuitive that it's often the first game people recommend for beginners. So, we'll leave you with this thought. For hundreds of years, card games have basically been about beating your opponents. But The Crew comes along and proposes this really different, really powerful idea. It just asks a simple question. What if the best way to win is to help someone else?